man who is leading Bernie Sanders' team and Our Revolution, chairman of the board of Our Revolution, our good friend Larry Cohen, former president of the Communication Workers of America, up early this morning and at it.
Always up early.
Hey, Larry, you're looking good.
Yeah, right.
This is a very exciting time. I mean, Our Revolution, I've said other presidential candidates, some didn't even try, some have tried to form an organization to continue their agenda.
Mm-hmm.
I think if anybody can pull it off, Bernie Sanders can, with all the support that he had around the country. How's it going?
Great. We did a live stream last night with Bernie introducing Keith Ellison, running for Democratic Party chair. 200,000 people watched.
That's
we
great.
did it at the American Federation of Teachers, packed room. Very exciting, as you said. Sobering time on the one hand, with what might be the worst president ever, but on the other hand, it's a time to stand up and fight back, and people are doing it.
So Bernie had something like 8 million contributions from 2.5 million contributors, if I recall. Is that the right?
Yeah, that's close.
Around,
2.5 million contributors, $250 million.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the number of contributions, but yeah.
But how? So I was just wondering about, with this vast support that he had among the American people, have they now are signed up for our revolution? Continuing
They have not all signed up, shockingly, but many have signed up. Lots are active. Over 600,000 signed petitions so far for Keith Ellison, which we will split up by states. So, for example, 100,000 from California alone, and we'll say to the state party chair, okay, which side are you on? You're going to stand with 100,000, and it'll grow quickly. 100,000 or more people? Are you going to be part of the old guard, just following along the W. Wasserman Schultz trajectory as Democrats plunge into the basement across the country?
All right. So you've touched on both things. I want to ask you about two big issues, and they're related, obviously. One is, what do you tell all the Bernie Sanders supporters? How do we progressives react to the incoming Trump administration, number one? And two, how do we recharge, rebuild, redirect the Democratic Party? As I say, they're very related. But let's start with, what do progressives do about this Trump? You see, as I mentioned at the top, appointing all these oil and gas people in charge. Everything we care about, he's got people going in the opposite direction. What do we do?
Right. So I think it's a combination of resistance, which is somewhat complex. It ranges from sanctuary and actually protecting each other, not self-defense. I like to say mutual aid. If we wait and they come for people one at a time, we'll all go down the drain. So what does mutual aid mean? Whether it's unions under attack, and unions will get blistered right off the bat here. There's 2 vacancies on the NLRB. He gets control immediately. Whether it's immigrants, people of the Muslim faith, LGBT or transgender, what does mutual aid mean? How do we defend each other? But also stay on offense. What is our vision that we heard in the Bernie campaign? How do we deal with the worst inequality ever in the richest country in the world? How do we stay on the attack in terms of expanding Medicare, not just resisting cuts, expanding opportunities about higher ed instead of the $1 trillion in student debt growing to $2 trillion? So staying on offense, but also not taking our eye off the kind of resistance and mutual aid, collective self-defense, sanctuary that we will need when he attacks us.
And what's the venue? Is it Congress? Is it state legislatures? Is it local government?
All. So it's definitely all of those. So this notion of sanctuary or building bases around the country is definitely local government. So even in this election, lots of examples from the Our Revolution ranks, people getting elected. Chris Schwartz in Blackhawk County Supervisor, or just yesterday, Julie Nitsch in Austin, Texas, won a runoff for Board of Trustees, Austin Community College. So I think, there are places like this where we can build out, and those people have great vision in terms of what they can do where they live. But also back here, it'll be more of putting forward an alternative vision, like on infrastructure, not, as you said, a fossil fuel infrastructure, which is what Trump will bring, but instead infrastructure based on a green economy, the same kind of vision that a Bernie or even a Hillary Clinton would have fought for had they been president. So I think we have to do both. Here's our vision. Keep organizing around it on a national level, but on a local level, people can govern. In some cities and towns, we should look for those and we should build out.
So you're saying that even with Trump in the White House, Republicans in control of the House and the Congress and most governorships, there are still opportunities.
Yeah, huge opportunities, all over the country. We have to look for those. And your second question, in the Democratic Party.
right.
So one of the
that.
things our revolution is doing is helping people take over precinct chairs. So right now in Florida, the deadline is today. There's thousands across the country of open precinct seats. Basically, you can sign up and you'll be the precinct chair, and then you get involved on the county level. So reorganizing the Democratic Party from the bottom at the same time that we fight for Keith Ellison at the top. And we're actually better because of the way the party is structured. I am a delegate, a DNC member, and have been there for 12 years. But because of the way it's structured, the real path to change is at the precinct level, and then the county level, and then the state level. And then we change the DNC. Hopefully, Keith, we can also elect Keith along the way. As I said, 600,000 people have already signed up for Keith, and we're going to take those names and that support to every state chair.
Right. Today, it's good that you're here today, because today, Keith Ellison, who was the first one out there, certainly the front runner, co-chair of the Progressive Caucus, big supporter of Bernie Sanders. We support Keith Ellison. But he's going to get a big challenge today. Labor Secretary Tom Perez is going to announce that he's going to run against Keith. Why?
Well, that's the question I asked in a column published yesterday. Why would he run? Because he's certainly not running to say, hey, I'm the more progressive candidate. He's obviously going to run to the right of Keith Ellison. We want him to own that if he's actually going to announce that he's running today rather than exploring it. We want him to own why he's doing that, so that some of the donors that spoke out against Keith, like Sabin, they'll be happy to see Tom Perez. We're not happy. We don't think the donors like Sabin should have much of a voice in this party. They should be, like the rest of us, an active citizen, that the amount of money you give shouldn't control the party. Again, I've been on there for 12 years. I'm sick and tired of it. That's what I've seen for 12 years. It's all about finance. It's all about rich donors. It's all about candidates that'll fund their own elections. As Fannie Lou Hamer said, sick and tired of being sick and tired. That's what's wrong with this Democratic Party. Either it changes now or it risks any kind of viability going forward.
Is this a rift between the Sanders wing of the party now and the Clinton-Obama wing?
I don't think it's exactly that. Lots of unions. We were at AFT last night where we broadcast. Randy Weingarten kicked off that event. She was obviously a core supporter of Hillary Clinton.
Yes,
and
right.
now of Keith Ellison. The same thing with AFSCME, and most unions are supporting Keith. So that's one example.
Lee Saunders, president of AFSCME,
Correct.
supported Hillary. I think they were the first union. No, AFT was the first.
Yeah.
But AFSCME was early on with
Early
Hillary.
on, not quite.
Right. And now supporting Keith Ellison.
Correct.
Right. So.
And it's not just the unions. Chuck Schumer, who was a core supporter of Hillary Clinton, core supporter of Keith Ellison. Mayor de Blasio announced yesterday that he's supporting Keith Ellison. Elizabeth Warren, who stayed neutral, supporting Keith Ellison. There's quite a list.
Right. But I guess you'd have to say, I mean, Perez is a progressive, right? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a progressive. He's not done grassroots party work in the way that Keith Ellison has. He
Right.
did get elected Montgomery County Council. As I said in my column, he was an excellent labor secretary. But the point is, do we want change or continuity? Obviously, he has to run as continuity. He was a supporter of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Most Democrats abhor the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We celebrated its defeat while he was continuing the campaign for it. So really, it's a matter of visuals. Do we want more continuity? The White House has run that party for 8 years. This president's beloved by me and others, but frankly, he ran the party into the ground. The DNC is all but dead. And we need a new DNC. We need a symbol of real change. That's Keith Ellison.
All right. Now, let's say we've got Keith Ellison, head of the DNC. What changes do you think we need to see in the Democratic Party to reflect more of what you and I think the Democratic Party ought to be all about?
Yeah, number one, not in a symbolic way, but in a real way, open, transparent discussion, debate, no more of the, all the way to the top at the DNC level. Again, I've been there 12 years. The only time any of us got to speak is when we literally took the microphone and demanded it. We marched to the microphone and took it over. There has not been one opportunity for anybody to comment on a single thing on the 12 years I've been there. There's been no transparency about the elections. The structure of the party needs to change. I'm the vice chair of what will be starting up soon, the Unity Reform Commission, which is to look at the party. And obviously, I'm on there solely because of Bernie Sanders. It was a convention resolution agreement in Philadelphia instead of a floor fight on the rules. But from the rules of the party at the national level, how presidents get nominated, to how the party operates in Florida, for example, where they're reorganizing now. Disgrace is the only word I could use to describe what's going on in Florida, how they organize. It's totally obscure, no transparency. We need to change that in every state, in every county. We need to say to the ward bosses, your day is over. The people of this country, young people, they need to believe that they can come in and play a role in this party now, not that they wait and wait and wait.
How about closed primaries?
Closed primaries is another problem. I mean, that's now you're into a long conversation for me.
I know, but
it's a whole. I mean, yeah, how presidents get nominated is a gigantic problem. The New York primary, you had to be a registered Democrat 195 days before the election. 195 days was Halloween, and yeah, it was a scary holiday and trick or treat. But that's not the way that the New York primary should run. And young people thought they were eligible to vote for Bernie Sanders all over New York State. It turned out they weren't.
Yeah, I forget how many hundreds of thousands of voters at the time. No, I don't see how any Democrat, any progressive certainly can defend a closed primary.
Well, it goes on and on. The Iowa caucus. I mean, it was basically a tie, but we really won that, the Bernie Sanders side. You couldn't get a count. The count doesn't exist, except the state party chair had the count of, I forget how many, 1,666 caucuses, 99 counties. You couldn't get a count of how many people showed up in any of the rooms. And it was based on those counts that the county convention delegates were then decided. Again, it's a process that you couldn't invent, except we already have it.
We mentioned superdelegates before. I mean, is there any chance for reform of superdelegates?
Yes.
You're co-chair of this commission.
Yes.
Yes.
So the commission, number one, is charged with eliminating 2/3 of the superdelegates. That's what we got out of the Democratic convention. It's in the resolution. The question is how to do it.
Yeah.
And when does it occur? I was the first superdelegate for Bernie, but campaigned to end all superdelegates till the end of time. We agreed to settle for this, which is to eliminate 2/3 of superdelegates from the nominating process. They may still get a floor pass, but that's different. So the only ones that will be left are the congressional Democrats and the Democratic governors. So that will mean from about 700 plus, it'll drop to about, well, it depends how many of those there are, but 250 or so.
All right. Let's say a quick hello to Mary out in Uray, Colorado. Hi, Mary. You got a question?
Good morning and happy holidays. I'm just dreading what's ahead. I'm just curious. The last time I called, I mentioned possibly having Keith Ellison come on board at the DNC if he would consider taking it, since I know he lost the election thing.
I think you're talking about Russ Feingold,
You're
right,
talking
Mary?
about Russ Feingold.
Yes, I meant Russ Feingold. Is there any chance, was he ever considered, or was he not even interested in it? It's just that he would have full time to do it.
Take your answer on the air, Mary. Thanks for the question.
Yeah. So first of all, Keith Ellison did say last week that if he wins, and I am active in that campaign, when he wins, he will resign his House seat, which is Minneapolis, Minnesota. So he will be full time. I did not. People have to run. I don't think I've heard anything about Feingold running. Feingold's terrific, but I'm sure he's supporting Keith Ellison.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask you about something that happened yesterday. First of all, what can the unions look forward to under a President Donald Trump?
Well, for most union members, as well as union leaders, a horror show. There's 2 vacancies now on the NLRB. So the NLRB will flip immediately to 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats. I shudder to think who will be the new chair of the NLRB. You'll see 8 years of decisions reversed. The labor secretary is explicitly anti-collective bargaining and anti-labor. He will definitely be on day one the worst labor secretary ever. That's saying something after the Reagan and Bush years.
Yeah.
But unions have to practice resistance. So when we talk about collective resistance, they need to learn, many of them know how to do it, but they need to learn collective resistance.
All right, now how do you explain then that yesterday the building trades, that collection of unions, actually endorsed Rex Tillerson for Secretary of State?
Big mistake. obviously up to them in that department of the AFL-CIO. But I would say big mistake. This is exactly what Trump wants. It's right out of the playbook from Nixon and Reagan, divide and conquer. And if people play around with him, you'll see, as I said, the end of the NLRB as we knew it, an anti-labor department, and it'll keep coming in waves and waves and waves. This isn't new, sadly, for the Building Trades Department. They backed Nixon in 72 actively. One of their own became labor secretary. But I think lots of building trade members, many of whom supported Bernie Sanders, will be saying to their own unions, what are you doing? That's my clean way of saying it. And we'll take it from there.
All right. Yeah, we'll take it from there. You're going to take it from there, I hope, with a lot of help from our listeners and our viewers. OurRevolution.com. Join the campaign with Larry Cohen and Bernie Sanders
This
and Keith
is
Ellison.
the Bill Press Show.